time it is. It's KCIM Sports Rewind. I'm John Ryan.
I'm Jeff Blankman.
And I'm Mason Nealon.
Little pause in there.
Yeah.
Not bad. We're getting better at that.
We are.
I'm tired of introducing you guys. Tired of carrying you guys. Introducing you all the time.
The back sore.
Letting you chat for a half an hour. Yeah. So I need my airtime back. Lots to get to. Baseball, softball. We should. Mason comes in and goes, "Yeah, we had 9 games last night and 8 teams." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm not doing the math correctly on that one." But there was a doubleheader.
Yes.
So there you go. So we're going to get a lot of that coming up in a few more minutes. A lot of softball coming up as well. But let's start with this one. The NCAA. Have you heard about the new rules that they've got coming out?
Which new rules?
The settlement that they have basically about paying athletes directly from the universities. It's not getting rid of NIL.
Right.
And students still have a chance to do that. But it looks like now there's going to be basically a salary structure for a lot of these coming out and a cap, which is great for a lot of schools out there. I'm still fuzzy on the whole NIL thing, how that's going to play into fact, and are they still going to have people like Arch Manning, who is going to make $1 bazillion in college, plus what he's going to draw from the University of Texas?
I'm guessing that's going to happen. You'll probably have it where less guys on the team are getting the NIL, so it'll be more probably in line of what it was supposed to be, where you actually have to give the business or the person that's paying you some kind of something, instead of them just giving you things. But that stuff's been going around forever, so I don't think it's going to completely get rid of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of national media people that feel like there's a lot of programs that are going to be hurt. I know Jamie Pollard over at Iowa State has already come out and said that they can't afford the $20-some million a year, the 20.9 or whatever it is, 20.5, that they can't afford that, so they're going to have to pay less. And I've had some Iowa State friends of, fans that are friends of mine that are upset and frustrated that they seem to be getting pushed out of, being able to compete, unless they can go out and find the diamonds in the rough and not sign them for a lot of money and then develop them, which is what Matt Campbell's been doing.
Well, the one positive I can see, Mason, is that, the Alabamas, the Michigans of the world can't go out and sign everybody.
Right.
There's still going to be some guys, some really good athletes left over, maybe with a chip on their shoulder. You hope they come in like that. But that's what folks like Iowa State and smaller schools are going to have to do.
Yeah, that's what some of them have been doing, though, is they find these people that, they're not the highest recruited people on the planet, and then they mold them into what they kind of want for their program. But I think that kind of paying these student athletes and stuff in college, I think it's been going on for a while, honestly. But nobody really brought it to light, probably some of the bigger schools. And then now that it's kind of public and you can just do it, everyone's just expected to do it now.
Yeah, this year they're expecting that football is going to take about 80%.
Yep.
Men's basketball, the other 20% basically, leaving just a tiny sliver for every other sport and every other athlete out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think Iowa, you'll probably see women's basketball maybe getting a bigger sliver than what the men's basketball will. I won't be surprised at that because they've been more successful. I know out at Nebraska, women's volleyball might take the second most amount because of the success that they've had. But I also think that in sports like that, you're going to see a lot of NIL money still being dumped into. In volleyball, they've increased the scholarship you can offer now from 12 to 18. So that's going to allow some of the bigger schools that can afford it to probably go out and do more. But yeah, the football one's going to be interesting. I was listening to a podcast last night while typing up the softball stories, and they were talking about like Arizona State and SMU and BYU have loads and loads of money that they have stocked up through their NIL initiative. And they said don't be surprised to see those programs take some large jumps and maybe be contenders, for playoffs and even for more, over the next decade because of how much money they have in reserves right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a new playing field for sure and all of this stuff. I know the University of Iowa have announced what the flights is what they're calling them, where you can donate to a specific sport.
Right.
And right now they're pushing women's basketball, football, and men's basketball there clearly. So we'll see how successful they are in competing with the tops, the Ohio States, the Michigans of the Big Ten.
Right. I don't think it's going to be easy. I I do think that, I think if you're a Matt Campbell or if you're a Kirk Ferentz, you've always went out and found the 2- and 3-star kids and then filtered in some 4-star kids, but you've always went out and got those kids that fit your culture, and then you've developed them, and you probably haven't had to pay as much as what some of the other schools have been doing.
But are they true contenders for anything, for a national championship in the end?
No, possibly not. I would say, and I know I'm going to get a lot of Iowa fans up in arms in this. I would say Iowa State probably more than Iowa, simply for the fact that the Big 12's nowhere near as probably as good or deep as what the Big 10 is. So if you've got a chance to compete in the Big 12 every year, you got a better chance of probably making the playoff every year, which gives you a chance. I just think that, with the Big 10, there's so many big money programs, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States. Not saying that Iowa can never beat those teams, not saying that at all, but I'm saying that it's going to be harder for them to climb those teams. Then you throw in the USCs and the Oregons and stuff like that. That conference just got tougher to become one of those playoff teams. Now, it's not impossible. Indiana came from the doldrums to be a postseason team a year ago. So,
yeah. Mason, you were shaking your head. No, you don't think that Iowa can compete like that? Iowa State even?
No, I just see it the same way Jeff does, that the Big Ten is so loaded recently. I mean, you look at it from the top to bottom, Oregon, USC. You can throw Washington in there some years. You can throw Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State some years. Indiana's gotten good recently. Nebraska's on the come up as well. I mean, there's teams in there that are going to compete. And so it's going to be hard, but I think in the Big 12, Iowa State's just got a better chance of coming out and being more successful.
Yeah. Is this better for college football or college sports in total, or is it just reshaping what was already a bad landscape?
For me, I think having the cap is probably going to be good. I think it'll help control things. I don't think you're probably not going to see as much NIL money thrown around, but it's still going to be around. I still think what's going to eventually happen, and I know a lot of Iowa State fans tell me I'm crazy, but I still think in the long run, with the Big Ten and SEC controlling the vast majority of the TV revenue, I think they're going to squeeze everybody else as much as they can, and I think eventually you're going to see two conferences, because the Iowa States and the Colorados of the world are going to have to make a decision. Are they going to end up in the Big Ten or in the SEC? And all the rumors I keep hearing is eventually it'll be like the AFC and the NFC, but it'll be the Big Ten and Big 12, and then they'll break. And I like this idea. They'll break everything back down to divisions, so your divisions will be more local rivals, more local and stuff. So you may end up having like a Midwest division in one of those conferences, and that could be like Nebraska, Iowa State, Minnesota, those type of things where it's more local rivalries that can develop.
See, I see the Big Ten and the SEC going, all right, we're the big dogs. We're going to give you just enough to keep your conference going because we don't want to have to share with you.
Right.
So they're going to keep the Big 12 and some of these other conferences going just enough. They're going to give them one slot in the football playoffs while they take 4 or 5 each in a 12-team playoff. So I see them just kind of stringing them along just enough to keep them at arm's length. But again, just kind of keeping them happy with where they are.
Right, and that very possibly could happen as long as they can get one or maybe 2 teams into the postseason every now and then. The big thing's going to come if some year a team can slip through. Arizona State probably should have beaten Texas a year ago early, and who knows what kind of a run maybe they go on if they do that, and maybe they get a national championship, and maybe that wakes everybody up a little bit.
And then you can look at basketball. They're looking at expanding the NCAA tournament.
I hate it.
Just too watered down for you?
I think so. I mean, I love the upsets in the early rounds. My only fear is you're always going to, everybody's like, oh, there's teams that deserve to get in that aren't getting in. Well, it was that way when it was 32 teams. It's that way when it was 64. Now it's 68. And there's always going to be a few teams you can look at and say that they deserve in there. And then the other thing that worries me about basketball, maybe this cap will fix it, but you look at it, most of your non-power programs aren't going to keep their talent because they're going to go somewhere else where they can make money. So I think the amount of upsets, you saw it this year, you finally had one of those years where you got a lot of the higher seeds. I just don't think you're going to see as many upsets in the NCAA tournament.
I don't know, Mason, you look at even at the high school playoff level. I mean, 4 teams make the playoffs in high school football, correct?
Right. Yep.
And then you wind up with these games of a number 4 seed taking on a number 1 seed, a district champion, and they're just not good games.
Yeah, no, I mean, the competition's always going to be there, but like you said, they were expanding March Madness. I think they're even looking into expanding the college football scene as well. I think it was 12 to 16 is what a lot of people are looking at. And so when you talk about like the Big 12, there's conferences that are already going extinct, like the Pac-12 last year. They had such good quality teams that just jumped over to the Big 10 because the Big 10's become this big powerhouse. And so all of those schools go there because they know the money's there. So that's kind of what I'm seeing as well with you. Like you said, Jeff, is that some schools are going to jump to where the money's going to be at.
Yeah, and that's the thing that fears me for the ACC and the Big 12. Are you going to be able to compete when your TV contract's giving you $35 million a year for each school, and the Big 10 and Big 12, Big 10 and SEC are making $70 to $80 to $100 million a year? Just that difference is going to have some kind of an impact down the road.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with anything about Iowa State's athletic budget. Don't know a darn thing about it. But Jamie Pollard saying they can't afford $20 million a year. But I mean, look at your football program. The football's king. It brings in all the revenue, and men's basketball brings in a bit more. And the Big 12 is good at that.
Yes.
But so it surprises me that they would say, well, we can't afford that.
A lot of schools. Actually, there's very few programs where the athletic department is self-sufficient, and they're constantly having the other ones are constantly having to take money.
Because all the other sports
yes.
suck up money.
They do, and so that could be the one thing that could happen. You don't want to see it happen. Even Nick Saban's come out and said it. Are we going to kill off a lot of the Olympic sports at the college level because schools are going to have to make that decision? Okay, if I have to pour some money into some other sport that doesn't really generate any kind of revenue, do we keep doing that sport, or do we get rid of that sport and then end up dumping that little bit of revenue into the sports that actually generate revenue for us? But TV's been driving all of the conference, the changing of conferences and everything else, realignment, and I think TV money is going to continue to drive a lot of this stuff.
So here's something interesting. The college softball World Series going on, and they just drew Game 3. It was the most watched college softball game ever, 2.4 million on ESPN. Yeah. They were absolutely over the moon with that number. So the viewership is definitely up for some of those sports, especially the women's sports. Yep. Again, is it too little too late for them?
Yeah, you got to wonder. And I think for women's sports, you're seeing the growth of softball, volleyball, and women's basketball over the last few years. I think the growth of those sports, with the way people are now paying attention to them, has really grown. Part of that, I think you hear a lot of people complain, I don't want to watch the game anymore because they're all prima donnas out there playing for the money. Well, you're not seeing that on the women's side a little bit, but you're starting to see some of that on the men's side of things, where they're not happy about the amount of money that's getting dumped into the programs. So
let's talk baseball. We'll jump over to that sport. I mean, talk about popularity. The TV numbers, the ratings are all up for this year. The team that's really bucking that trend, the Colorado Rockies. I was looking up run differential the other day. I think the A's are like minus 119 in their run differential. Guess where the Rockies are in run differential this year? I'm
going to say about 250 or so, maybe above that.
Yeah, a little bit better than that.
Okay.
But they're about 200.
Okay.
It's 198, in fact, is the run differential. Trivia question of the morning, who has the best run differential in the major leagues? Who would you think that is? Best record, that's Detroit, 43-24.
Yeah. Cubs?
The Cubs, they have 104 run differential, 104. So they are the best. Better than the Yankees, better than the Tigers, better than the Dodgers even.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dodgers pitching's been struggling a little bit, hasn't it, with all the injuries that they've had?
I think so.
Yeah.
I haven't really followed the Dodgers much.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani's not pitching yet. So we'll see about them. But, man, Detroit, 43-24, best record in the major leagues. They just beat the Cubs 2 out of 3. These guys just keep on rolling. Great young starting pitching that you probably never heard of and some pretty good young bats.
Yeah, and I love it. And, we grew up in a day where Detroit, with Sparky Anderson as their manager, had
Kirk
some
Gibson.
of those, some of those great teams, and I like seeing what you would consider maybe a smaller market franchise. I hate seeing the same teams in the postseason every year. I think that's the one thing that even bothers me a little bit about football, is college football, is it's gotten to be about the same 8, 10, 12 teams that are in the postseason every single year. It's kind of nice to see a little changeover and get some fresh blood in there. And if Detroit can make a run, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah, they are having a great season. I tell you what, the Cubs, don't sleep on the Cubs in the National League. They lost last night, a walk-off to the Phillies, but so far this year, guys like Pete Crow Armstrong, they have been phenomenal. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see him or not.
I have not, no. I haven't had a chance to I watched some of the super regionals and regionals for college baseball, but I have not had a chance to sit down and watch a Major League Baseball game yet. So
this guy doesn't look like anything special walking in off the street, but you talk about a five-tool player. He is it. I mean, he's got a great arm, terrific speed, can hit for power, hit for average, and all that stuff. So, I mean, he has definitely put himself in the conversation for the National League MVP in that one.
Cool.
That's the reason the Cubs are where they're at right now. Plus, Ian Happ and Nico Horner and some of those guys are having good seasons, but nothing quite like PCA.
Right. Yeah. So, I'll have to sit down and get a chance to watch him sometime.
Yeah, watch some highlights. Did you see the catch the Oakland A's outfielder made last night?
No.
Man, it was crazy. So he goes up to the center field fence and dang near falls over the fence. He jumps up on he launches himself off of the padding and catches the ball. I swear it was like 3 feet beyond the fence.
Wow.
He almost tumbles over because he hits his waist on the very top of the fence and managed to hold it together and come back in the field of play. But yeah, he robbed a home run that was at least 3 feet beyond the wall.
Wow.
It was insane. Maybe one of the best catches outside of the guy getting turned around.
Yes.
Remember that one?
Yeah, I do. What about Bo Jackson running up the outfield wall?
Well, that was one of the all-time greats.
Yes,
but he had already caught the ball.
He had. Yes. Yep.
But his crazy throw to nail a runner at first base, that was one of the most insane plays.
Or the one where he got Harold Reynolds at home the one time, too, from like pretty much the wall and warning track.
That's the one I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, just on the fly.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we'll talk a little local sports here coming up next on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind with Sports Director Jeff Blankman, Assistant Sports Director Mason Nealand, and me. So, all right, time to talk a little.
Who are you again?
It's not important. I'm like the parsley on the side of the plate. It's not important. You don't need it. It's just there for show. What do you want to start, baseball or softball?
Let's start with baseball. Congrats goes out to the Arweva baseball team picking up their first win of the year last night, being able to knock off Exira and Kimballton. They were just 1-3, so they haven't played a lot of games where a lot of other teams are up in close to double digits or in double digits for games already. Arweva started about 2 weeks after everybody else for games, and so they're just 4 games into the season. But Wyatt Regaller last night, a big night, went 4 for 5, had 3 RBI, and Devin Ehlers went 2 for 3 with a couple of RBI and scored twice. So they went out and kind of put things together, especially at the plate. So congrats to them getting their first win. Mason, anything else stand out for you baseball-wise?
You mentioned Glidden Ralston earlier before we went on the air.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff went down to that game, so he might be able to tell you a little bit better. But when we were talking about it, Glidden, 4-1 going into the 5th inning, and they held with Coon Rapids for a while there, and they kind of played pretty well.
Yeah, Kuhn got things to go in the 5th and scored 5, and then added 2 more in the 6th to go on to an 11-1 6-inning win as the Crusaders moved to 9-1. Cal Hayden continues to hit the cover off of the ball. Last night he was 3 for 3 with a double, had 2 triples. When was the last time you saw a kid have 1 triple, let alone 2 in the same game? He added 2 RBI and scored twice, and then also went to 2 for 3 with a double, a triple, and stuff against Bedford Hanford over the weekend as well. So Cal's playing like everybody kind of anticipated Cal playing. Mason Culbertson came in and pitched extremely well in relief last night for Coon, going 5 1/3, struck out 9, gave up just 1 hit. So did a nice job of kind of closing off some things. But speaking of Glidden Ralston, Landon Rohrbeck, Jonathan Bergmeyer, Daniel Toft have all been playing it and swinging the bat well for him. And I don't know his official numbers. I know he added another one last night, but Colin Sturm I think he's been hit by a pitch in every game this year. Some games it's been multiple times, and he's one of the state leaders in being hit by pitch so far this year, and he's taking it as a badge of pride. I know Coach Walker was telling me the other day that Colin will go and take a look every day at the state leaders because he wants to be the state leader in being hit by pitch by the end of the year.
Can you say crowding the plate?
Yes.
And you're paying the price, so,
yes, absolutely.
More power to you.
Yeah, so for Glidden Ralston, South Central Calhoun did pick up a win last night, 5-4. I know Coach texted shortly before I left to come down here this morning that the stats are up now. We didn't have those overnight, so I don't know for sure how anybody did stats-wise last night for them. But I know the other day Andrew Anderson went 3 for 3 and had a 2-run home run, a couple of RBI, doubled as well against Sioux Central, and Charlie Natras went 3 for 5 and had 4 RBI in the game. So those are some pretty good offensive numbers for them here as of recently. A lot of our other baseball teams struggling a little bit right now. Carroll's sitting at 3-6. They went up to Sioux City East last night and kind of took one on the chin against a highly ranked 4A team and got beat 16-1 in 5 innings. Kemper's sitting at 8-6 right now. Split a doubleheader down at Red Oak, so they made that long road trip down there. They've been a little up and down. I think everybody kind of anticipated that this year. They've had some really good games and then had some games where they struggled a little bit. But Tristan Jansen, I think, has been really swinging the bat well for them. Mason Earl's done a nice job on the hill for them so far this season. Esac sitting 2-6. ICAM Manning at 3-7. They're extremely young this year. Not young's not the right word. They're inexperienced. They've got a lot of guys. I love the story behind it. You had friends, and this is the way it should be, that all kind of went, hey, if you go out for my sport, I'll come out for your sport and help you out. So you've got some baseball kids that are out this year that haven't been out since junior high or even Little League, and they're playing this year. And, some of them are playing pretty well. But the other kids went out for their sports, and now they're returning the favor and going out for baseball. So it's awesome, and I think they're going to continue to get better as the season goes on because those kids that are out are really good athletes. It's just going to take a little bit of time to kind of refigure out the game of baseball.
Yeah, it's a game of feel more than just about anything else now, especially when you're hitting and things like that.
Mason, what stood out for you about baseball over the last week?
Last night for Carroll, obviously, like you said, they took one on the chin against Sioux City East. Stone Siebenlander, though, he scored their only run off a solo home run, and that one kind of sounded like it was a pretty good hit from him. When you look kind of top to bottom, though, even though the records may not show it, I think that we have some good talent inside of all of our programs here, and I think that if they put it all together throughout the season, we can see some of these teams make a better run through the middle and end part of the season.
Yeah, and for poor Carroll, in a way, you play at Merchants Park, it's so hard to hit a home run there. Now, that home run by Stone last night was the first home run for the team this season. It's not because they haven't been hitting the ball pretty well. It's just harder to hit home runs in Merchants Park than it is in any other park in the state of Iowa.
When it's 410 straight away? That's a shot.
Yeah. When the center fielder looks like he's playing right behind second base, it's just because there's so much open space out there in center field. It can be tough. Yes, but he added a double last night as well to go with that 2-run home run, or that solo home run.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone hit one dead straight away in Merchants Park before. I've seen them over the right and left field walls, but never dead straight.
I've seen a few. Austin Steichen still probably the one. I know the Molitor Dean used to hit a lot of them out that way, but Austin Steichen from St. Mary's in one of the CYO tournaments years ago, that ball looked like it was still climbing as it went by the flagpole out there in dead center field. So, there's been a few, but I don't think a ton of them that get hit out to dead center.
So, first year for Riley Bach at the Kemper as the Kemper head coach. What is he saying at this point of the season?
I think
You're going to interview him coming up after the show, so it's kind of an unfair question.
Yeah. When I look at them, I've seen them for one game now, just calling their games, and I've also looked at kind of the stats for them. I think that I don't think they lack the power, but I think that they kind of have taken the mantle of small ball, and they play to get batters on and move them around. And I think that's where they find most of their success is they have guys like Tristan Jansen and Mason Nurl and guys like that can bunt and get on base, and then guys after them that can bunt as well and move them around.
Do
they have the pitching, though?
Yeah, they've got 3 or 4 really strong pitchers. I don't know if they have like the Chris Halber type of guy right now, that can go out and just slam the door on somebody. But I think they've got 3 or 4 guys that you got to feel real comfortable that they can get a win when they're on the hill, because they're all strong, probably that strong type of a number one. They're just maybe not that dominant, just going to go out and limit you to no hit type of a pitcher. So
even the last couple of years, that when Randy Snyder was head coach, I mean, the record wasn't outstanding or anything like that, but you're playing, Hawkeye 10 competition and bigger schools, things like that. So when it comes time to playoff time, then you're talking. Then you're talking about teams more on your level.
Yeah, they always make a run in the postseason, and I think they'll do that again this year. And then the other thing they do is they never back away from playing a tough non-conference schedule because they want to continue to challenge themselves. I know John Waddle does that as well. He's constantly looking for great programs. I mean, this last weekend they held their Classic, and I was able to get down there for the first game. I was trying to get down to a softball tournament in Atlantic that morning as well, but then ended up getting rained out as I was driving down that way. But he brought in a ranked Bedford team and then a ranked Pleasantville team, for a 3-team tournament down at Coon this weekend. But that's what makes you better. John always says, we're going to see that type of pitching come postseason. I want to see that type of pitching all season long. So they'll schedule as many games, and Kemper's done that same thing over the years.
All right, let's switch it over and talk a little softball.
Softball right now, Glidden-Ralston probably the team that jumps off the board as the team that has not, maybe not playing the best, but playing right up there amongst the best. They're sitting at 4-1 and got a really nice win over Exira and Kimballton on the road last week when they won that one 2-1. Jalen Subert gave up just 2 hits and 1 earned run in that game. So they're sitting 4-1. ESAC suffered their first loss last night, went up and lost to a Pocahontas program that they've kind of struggled with as of late and stuff, but they've been playing really good baseball, or really good softball, I should say, excuse me. The one that jumps out to me a little bit that I wanted to mention is ICAM Manning. I know they're sitting 4-4, but last year 2 wins. They've already surpassed last year's win total, so I like what they're doing. And then they've had a couple of kids that have been on a tear. This was Carly Arp in a back-to-back game last week, 2 nights in a row. She went 4-for-4 with a double and scored 4 times against Tri-Center, and also went 3-for-3 with 2 RBI and 2 runs scored against AHST of Oka Walnut. So 7-7 over a 2-game stretch is pretty darn good. And Keegan Achide also went 4-for-4 with a couple RBI in that win over Tri-Center, but good for them. Exira and Kimballton kind of struggling a little bit to get the bats going. They'll get Taryn Peterson back later on this week. They're sitting 5-5. Again, they started the season ranked. And then Kemper sitting at 7-7 on the year. They lost Miley Schaefer, their ace pitcher, to a freak incident, and an injury first game of the year. And then Charlotte Schwabe, who was probably their second pitcher at that time, was still on the tennis team playing tennis. So she was there and not there and stuff because of the state tennis stuff. So for them to be sitting 7-7, playing about half of their games, 1, they've played all of their games really without their ace, and 2, they've played quite a few games without one of their other better pitchers. So and they're young and inexperienced. So I think Aaron Bowman's done a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the teams, obviously, some of the teams sitting at 500, the Exira, EHK Audubons, the Kempers, I think that it's just about getting those players back. Obviously, with Taryn Peterson coming back later in this week, she'll be a big factor in that one. And we talked before this, too, 7 or 8 starters for Exira that have gone out the door within the last year. And so that's obviously a new change. I think that Coach Tom Peterson down there is going to find a way to manage and get people into the right spots eventually and get them settled in to make a postseason run.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of, moving kids around and trying to find the position they're most comfortable. The other thing is they're going to want to put the ball in play by bunting a lot, and right now they're struggling a little bit, to get some of those bunts down, but I know that'll be something they'll continue to work on. And I saw them against ICAM Manning earlier this season, and when they're getting the bunts down, they've got a lot of speed, so they can really create some habit, some trouble for teams on the base pass.
So that kind of wraps up baseball, softball. Anything else to know?
Yeah, softball. Always, I can just throw out a few more numbers. Just last night, Charlotte Schwabe went 4 for 5 with a couple of doubles. Kaylee Walterman went 2 for 4 with a double, a triple, and 4 RBI against Harlan the other night. And last night, Aubrey Pudens, a youngster from Kemper, was 4 for 5, 4 RBI, and scored 3 times, while Morgan Mashing went 4 for 4 with a double and 2 RBI and scored twice. So we've had some kids putting up some terrific seasons, which isn't going to make it easy. We're going to sit down probably this week and try and figure out our date for our Rewind All-Star festivities and start figuring out some of that stuff. So hopefully next week we'll be able to announce an official date of when we're going to be hosting that. So
yeah, a bit of a limited schedule tonight.
Yes.
The baseball, softball diamonds. You're going to be here in town, Jeff, with the Kemper Knights, Council Bluffs, St. Albert in town. That's a video game too.
Yes, we'll do that on the Kick 106.7 and on the video. And then Mason, you get to go over to Arweva for, what is it, baseball or softball tonight?
Softball tonight. I think it's Storm Lake St. Mary's at Arweva. And, that'll be a fun one. We've only one game on the air, so I think their second game of the year already.
And played pretty well in that first game. So
yeah, they'll be on Kick 107. You're on KKRL beginning at about 5:15. And, Jeff, you've got the game on Kick 106.7 about 6:45 tonight. So, again, download the Sports Mobile app. It's got everything you need, all the results, everything. You can check out all the video interviews, you name it. Just search CB Sports Network in your app store for that. And that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.